All right, let's get into the stock report where I basically go and look at the stock for a variety of different college football, NFL draft prospects, see if their stock went up or it went down. Let's go ahead, get this sucker started with Mike Green. Adam Marshall, edge, had a big game against Virginia Tech. Goes for 7 pressures, 2 sacks, has 4 defensive stops, had a win rate of 20%. And this is a cat that Mike Renner was pretty high on coming into the year. I hadn't watched him until I actually ended up watching him earlier this week before going into the Virginia Tech game. So I get the hype. I don't know if I'm not there with him being a top 50 prospect just yet, but I could see him being a day 2 prospect. He's coming in at 6'4", 248. He doesn't necessarily look it. He's a little length, like he's a little slender, I guess. So I don't buy into he's that 248. He might be closer to like 238, probably where I have him at. So might be a little undersized, but he plays strong. But you do want to see, like, if you go and look at his build, he does lack that lower body girth. So you worry about with that frame and maybe that potential lack of anchor that he might get washed out in the run game in a stronger, meaner, more physical NFL. So that ends up being, honestly, my biggest concern with him. Because when you look at just the movement skills, like this is a guy that played tight end and linebacker in high school. And he's got twitch. He's got great bend. Like, he's super light on his feet. He's able to corner really well. And he's got really good closing speed. He'll occasionally miss the tackle here and there, but he's got really good closing speed, plays with a really big motor, doesn't quit. I think he already has like 11 or 12 pressures on the season through 2 games. And he plays with pretty good hands and good violence. Like, he's a former collegiate wrestler, finished second in state his junior year, I believe. Yeah, or no, his sophomore year of high school. And then he finished 3rd in state his junior year of high school. So he's got that wrestling background, and he can mix it up, man. He plays with very, very active hands, and those hands pack a punch behind it. So Mike Green, legit prospect, gotta love it. Let's keep rolling with my next player being Andrew Mukuba, safety out of Texas. Had a big game against Michigan with 4 tackles, 2 defensive stops, 2 pass breakups, and an interception. He was a busy boy. And you just love to see it. You know, even though he's a little undersized at 6'1", 190, that he is somebody that doesn't mind throwing. Like, he doesn't mind getting physical. He'll put his nose in the action, and that was very apparent this past game against Michigan. But then the ball skills. I've been screaming for the last 2 years with him, honestly. I need to see more ball skills. We finally saw it this game with the interception. Granted, it was like a tipped pass, but also with the pass breakups. He did a hell of a good job this weekend. He is a great athlete, like an elite level athlete, I think, who is, at least as far as this year, the pursuit angles have been a bit better. You're hoping him to get a bit better as a tackler if he's going to come up playing the box. But he has the ability to play with great range just because he's such a phenomenal athlete. So if I'm going to be honest, like, he kind of, like, some of the concerns that I had coming into the season with him was the ball skills. Well, shoot, let's keep it up. As far as this Michigan game is concerned, you check that box off. Can you keep it up for the remainder of the season? I thought the pursuit angles for him were better in this game, but I do get worried that he's just too aggressive as a tackler, but you can kind of live with that at the safety position. But guys that play with his type of aggression and physicality at his size, I think, are not far and few between, but there's not many of them in the league. Everybody loves the NFL draft, and I know you want to be familiar with every potential prospect that your team may draft, so I got good news for you. My draft guide is available for purchase. It is good throughout the entire draft cycle, and it updates through the season regularly. You'll get my current evals and rankings on hundreds of different players with player backgrounds and analytics. It also contains combine and pro day numbers, as well as my notes from the Senior and Shrine Bowl. You can purchase it for a one-time payment of $30 on PayPal, Venmo, and now I have the Cash App. Follow the link in the description and be sure to include your email because it is a Google spreadsheet. That is how I share it with you. So please don't make me hunt down your email. Just don't do it. Anywho, it's a great purchase and it's a great way to support the channel. Let's keep moving, and I'm actually going to stick with this game, and I'm going to go with Gunnar Helm, tight end, out of Texas. I do want to give a shout out to Quinn Ewers. Had a phenomenal game, but I want to talk about a couple of guys that I haven't talked about on the channel yet. So I'm here talking about Gunnar Helm instead of Quinn Ewers, but hey, Ewers, watch out. He deserves to be in that first round talk. If he could just continue that play. He does have a few that miss was kind of bad, but he's playing really good football now. Gunnar Helm, though, coming in at 6'5", 250. And if I'm going to be real with Gunnar Helm, my biggest gripe with him is his play strength kind of sucks. He's got the room to add more mass on his frame. And I don't even necessarily think it's his play strength. He's just a bad blocker right now. He doesn't have enough sand in the pants to be able to move players off the line of scrimmage, but also defenders just play right through him sometimes. And that was true in this game. Like, his blocking wasn't that great. But where he makes up for it with is what he brings to the table as a pass catcher. Now, he doesn't have a large sample size. Like, he's already approaching his career high in yards in a season, and we're only through 2 games. I think his he had the most yards he had in any given year was last year with 190 something. He's already about to pass that. So he's kind of someone who's coming out of nowhere, right? Just kind of emerging. But when it comes to what we've seen thus far the last couple of games, he's got an ideal frame for the position, with room to add more muscle, more power, more play strength, which he definitely should. But long arms, this guy, it looks like he's got some ball skills. It truly does. I think he does a good job at high pointing the football, making catches away from his body. That was evident on the touchdown here against Michigan. And he doesn't have a drop. I mean, through his career, granted, that's 32 career targets, but he doesn't have a drop yet. So he's shown sure hands. And I went back and I looked up some articles on Gunnar Helm and that, or at least it quoted what the coaching staff's belief was with him going into this year. And they were like, hey, this guy's a good pass catcher. He's got some sure hands. He can make some plays. We're expecting some good things from Helm this year. And thus far, that has come to fruition. He's got some alignment versatility. He actually lined up wide a couple of times against Michigan and actually got some receptions. He's a bit, not saying he's this super smooth athlete. He's a fine athlete for the tight end position, but he's a shiftier route runner than you'd expect. At the end of the day, he reminds me a lot of Jared Wiley. I really do think at this point, Gunnar Helm's more mid-day 3, if anything else. He's definitely a day 3. It's just question is he mid to late? But yeah, Gunnar Helm, man, good performance this past weekend against Michigan. All right, let's talk Riley Leonard. We can't be positive all the time on Stock Report because we're talking stocks up and we got to talk stocks down. Because Riley Leonard, man, you might take a flyer on him at the mid to late day 3 at this point. The play hasn't been good. It has not been good for him. his fear of pushing, like not even necessarily his fear, but the offense maybe not having confidence in whether it's their playmakers or Riley Leonard himself to push the ball down the field. It's hurting the offense. Like, he was bad this ball game. His one tutty came on the ground, and that feels like the only thing Notre Dame wants him to do is like, hey, we're gonna establish some quick passes and we're gonna get you going in the run game. You keep doing that, teams are just gonna stack the box and shut the run down, which now you're not doing Jeremiah Love any favors, the running back there. So it was a bad showing, man. Like, I went into the year with like legit concerns with Riley Leonard. Like, if I'm just going to go look at this, I said he struggled versus good defenses in the past. Like, we saw back in 2023 against Notre Dame, 2 fumbles and an interception. You've seen it against Clemson in 2023. Yeah, you saw it against Miami in 2022. And thus far this year, he hasn't put up a good performance. I said he lacks that spark as a passer. He struggles with the timing and ball placement on more passes than you'd like to see. While I think he is capable of moving through his progressions, there seems to be a reluctancy to stay in the pocket, and he'd rather make plays with his feet. I don't think he has the ability to throw receivers open, and I don't think he has the type of imagination as a passer, Tell me where I'm wrong. And I also put spray and pray accuracy. I said his ball placement's all over the place, whether it's throwing ducks underneath or hanging vertical passes. The accuracy only dips further when on the move. Tell me where I'm wrong, man. Tell me where I'm wrong. Like, I came into the season saying, okay, Riley Leonard, I think he's like a 4th, 5th round pick at this juncture. Let's see what he can do here with Notre Dame. They've brought in some receiving talent from elsewhere, like in Bo Collins. Let's see how how Riley Leonard can do here. I'm kind of out on Riley Leonard at this point, but we'll see. We still got a lot of football to play. Next on the list is Omari Thomas, defensive interior out of Tennessee, coming in at 6'4", 325 pounds. You might look at that stat line. Only 1 defensive stop, only 1 pressure. That's a good win rate for an interior player at 14.3%. That's a pretty solid win rate for an interior player, but why are we talking about this guy? It's not like he blew up the stat column. And you know what? To be fair, as an interior player, you probably aren't gonna blow up the stat column. That's just kind of the facts. That's the fact of the matter of things. You're just not gonna blow up the stat column. But I remember when I first saw this guy on the field, I thought he was just a massive safety, maybe linebacker, because he was coming down. It felt like he was coming downhill to make a play. But I was like, man, that's a big boy. But he moves really, really well. Well, lo and behold, he's playing on the defensive line, which I wasn't shocked by that. I was shocked that he was 6'4", 325, because he holds that weight in his frame hella good. Like, it was pretty darn solid. I was pretty darn impressed with that. And legitimately, he moves so well. Like, this is someone that, if he ends up being that 325, because part of me thinks he might be closer to like a 310, 315, but if he is that 325, this is someone you're going to be able to either play in the A gap, but Tennessee's even played him out on the edge, and with his movement skills, I don't doubt it. His movement skills, I'm like, yes, please. I like it. Let's do it. Let's get with it. I'm a fan. So, like, I came away really, really impressed with that. He's someone that's going to be primed for these teams that like running stunts, because he's good at movement. Like, this is someone with a good first step, shows some really good quicks, has the lateral ability to be able to get out to the sideline and make plays. Hell freaking yes. He is pretty raw as a pass rusher. Like, there's just not a big. I don't think there's a big toolbox of pass rush moves with him. So a little underdeveloped in that regard, but still very impressive, especially with the size. Had a really good game against NC State. That whole defensive line did. It was freaking phenomenal. Great showing by Omari here. All right, let's keep rolling. Let's keep going with Nickolas Martin, linebacker out of Oklahoma State. Coming in at 6'1", 220 pounds. He was all over the place in that Arkansas game. Had 17 tackles, 10 defensive stops, 3 pressures. Didn't allow a reception, was only targeted once. And he was someone that I didn't have on my linebacker rankings video because I hadn't got to him yet. And I managed to get to him right before the college football season. And at that point, he was linebacker 5 for me. After I got to him, I was like, oh, wow, I love this cat. This guy's all over the place, and I love it. Like, and he's speedy. I mean, he's undersized. Don't get me wrong. He's undersized at 6 foot, 220 pounds. But, like, speed kills, and he's all over the place. He goes from sideline to sideline, and he's really good at eluding engagement. Like, he knows how to maneuver around blockers, and he's got good bend, good quicks. And even if he does have to engage, he does a nice little stab and dip where he can stun the blocker in front of him, allowing him to be able to get under him and go make a play, whether that's as a pass rusher or going after it as a run defender. And the dude's a phenomenal run defender. Like, his range puts him all over the place. He had 66 defensive stops last season. Like, he plays with physicality. He plays with violence. You love that. And there's a pass rushing upside there. He had 30 pressures and 6 sacks, and that was only on 98 pressures last season. And that number looks like it should be in that ballpark thus far, two weeks through the season. Like, he is phenomenal. Great work, great work ethic, great leadership. There's a lot of articles talking about the praise. Just coming heaps of praise from the coaching staff and some of his players there. And this is a veteran Oklahoma State team. For him, who right now, going into this year, he is a senior, or technically redshirt junior, but this is a veteran team, and he's the leader of that defense. You love to see it. But he is undersized. He can be a bit of a bull in a china shop at sometimes, leads to missed tackles. And his coverage prowess, I think right now he's more of a minimal gain guy. Like, there are times where the anticipation just isn't there. But for the most part, he's someone who's going to be, because he's so quick, he can get to where the ball is going and make sure that there are no yards after the catch. So, like, I'm a big fan of Nickolas Martin. Had a phenomenal game this week against Arkansas. All right, we got Ricky White, wide receiver out of UNLV. I talked about him in my wide receiver rankings. I came out and said I was a sucker for some of these Mountain West wide receivers. Ricky White had a big day against Utah Tech. And I know some people might be like, well, it's Utah Tech. He should have had a big day. He was pulled halfway through the second quarter. He had 3 touchdowns in the first quarter. Most of this damage was done in the first quarter. This is 1 quarter of play against Utah Tech. 5 receptions, 111 yards, 3 touchdowns. Dude's a big-time playmaker, and that's after kind of not being really involved in the offense. To be fair, the offense didn't pass a lot in the season opener, but they made sure to get him involved today. This guy's got really good speed. Really, really good speed. If you're like, oh man, but he's UNLV, he can't be that high of a not having a great pedigree. He was a former 3-star who went to Michigan State, so there's a little bit of a pedigree there. But game-breaking speed, great ball skills. If you go back to, since we are only dealing with a small sample size, 2-game sample size thus far this year. If you look at last year, 5.4% drop rate. If you look at his contested catch, 47.4. That's a fine number. But he is someone that needs to add more play strength to the frame. as when it comes to after the catch, he's going to be someone that wants to beat you with speed, run right by you, and that's fine. That's fine. I do want to see him become a bit more nuanced as a route runner. He could definitely be a bit more smooth on some of the more complex routes. A lot of that's just technique, getting the hips down, learning how to change the tempo of your routes. I think that's fine. I think you're working with a phenomenal base when it comes to Ricky White, because speed kills and he's got it in tenfold, and he brings hella good ball skills with that. Next up here, Tai Felton. I thought I talked about Tai Felton last week on the stock report. Went back, didn't see him, and I was like, you know what? I need to talk about him because I think he's a hot riser right now. I think he is. As he had a big game against Michigan State, 11 receptions for 146 yards and a touchdown. They unfortunately lost the ball game, is what it is, but he's coming in at 6'2", 181. Yeah, the dude's slender. It is what it is, but guess what? He's so fast. He is so fast. He's got long limbs too. Like, he can definitely add more weight to his frame because there is a lot of frame he is working with. He's got long limbs. He's super fast. He's super quick. You love the change of direction. You love the crispness. He might not have the biggest route tree at Maryland, but I think he can definitely develop into a really good route runner just from a athletic standpoint. And listen, this is a guy that does fumble quite a bit. You go back to last year on 43 receptions, he had 3 fumbles. Put that out there. This year, I don't have a fumble number on him yet this year. I don't think there is any, which is great. But this dude's yak ability is insane. He is a force missed tackle machine. He had 18 last year. I think he's going to clear 20 this season. The ball skills are really good. Only a 5% drop rate over his career. This wide receiver class is better than people expect. It might not be like Marvin Harrison Jr. and Malik Neighbors and Roma Dunze, but I think when it comes to the talent throughout this class, that there are some really good names. Tai Felton, I think, could end up being a top 50, top 75 prospect when it's all said and done. He's that explosive. He's that much of a difference maker. All right, let's talk about Jalon Daniels, quarterback out of Kansas. It hurts my heart to do this. Coming in at 6 foot, 215, so he's a little short for an NFL quarterback. And you know what? I think I don't know if it's going to be there as a passer for him. He had a bad game against Illinois, went 18 of 32 for 141 yards, 2 touchdowns, 3 interceptions. He had a fumble. He ended up having 4 turnover-worthy passes. Wasn't able to. Well, I think that fumble came at the end of the game where he tried to throw the Hail Mary. So take that for a grain of salt. I think that really doesn't matter whatsoever. But it wasn't a good game. He didn't have a good game in the opener against, what was it, Linderwood, something like that. And I get it. Oh, he didn't play like the second half of last season because of injury. Let him kind of warm up and ease into it. He already had questions as a passer for me, as he was someone that's just the ball placement and the processor, I just don't think are there for him. He's not someone that's willing to extend the play with his legs and do it to extend the passing game. If you force him out of the pocket, he's going to try to run the football. There are times where that short stature does hinder how he sees over the field. But I'm just kind of out on him as a quarterback. I think maybe, and I don't know, man, with his injury history, like, I don't know if you want to give it a go at running back. Maybe wide receivers the way to go with him. But I just don't see him being a quarterback at the next level, unfortunately. 2 games through, and I'm kind of out on Daniels. I think he's got potentially another year of eligibility. which maybe he doesn't. I know he's still relatively young, just because I think he was an early. What do they call it? He enrolled early at Kansas. I forgot the actual word for it, but I know he's relatively young. He maybe could be a grad transfer somewhere, but yeah, man. I hate to say it because I'm a big fan of his. I'm a big fan of Kansas. I love room for Kansas, but it's kind of the facts. Well, let's end this on a high note. Let's talk TJ Sanders, defensive interior out of South Carolina, coming in at 6'5", 295 pounds. I wish I could list the edge there at South Carolina, but he's a true freshman. I haven't got into Kyle. I think it's Kyle Kennard, former Georgia Tech player. He's having a big year for South Carolina on the edge. They got also Tonka. They're on the interior. Like, the defensive line is studded for South Carolina, but Sanders has been really good. He had 2 pressures and a sack against Kentucky, but he had a win rate of 33.3%. He was someone I think that was just inside my top 10 for the defensive interior position. And he's just someone that has the arrow moving up, because he is ridiculously strong. Like, he hits like a brick house. He plays with heavy hands, and he does that with good leverage. He's 6'5", but somehow he's able to play low, get down under, and get exceptionally good leverage. He's very there's some suddenness when he's setting up his pass rush move. His movement skills are really good. The motor is really good, and that's just been very apparent. Now, yeah, you want these guys to be. Typically, you want your interiors around that 300. He is just under it. It's a-okay. You could survive being 290, 295 at the NFL level. I think when you're in like the 280s, it's a bit more of like, can you survive on the interior? I think Sanders will be fine. He's more sudden than explosive. Like, it's not an elite first step. It does take away from his bull rush a little bit. And it might not be like the true penetrator, but he is someone that wins consistently, has looked good to start the year. He's going to go against a good LSU defensive line next week, and I look forward to it. I cannot wait. But let me know what you think. Who are some of the prospects that, I don't know, maybe opened up your eyes? Some of the prospects you thought had a good or bad performance this past weekend in college football. As always, you could check out some of my other draft content on the channel. If you would, always hit that thumbs up. I do appreciate it so much. But as always, until next time, you be easy, my friends. Later.